This week, the sky brings, God, besties, I don't know what the sky brings. TBH, we're going to get into all of that and more, surrendering to the mystery, focusing on energetic and nervous system self-care. And we're going to get through this together like we always do.
Welcome to Cosmic RX Radio, a podcast that gives you real-life tools of spiritual empowerment and pure hype. I'm your host and intuitive guide, MADI Murphy. I'll be serving up your weekly energy readings, cosmic boss interviews, and astro inspiration. Are you ready to love yourself more, manifest your dream life, and own your magic? Let's jump in.
Hello, it's me, your girl, your high vibe hype woman, your cosmic consultant, MADI Murphy, and I'm saying all of that because, we are going to talk about the astrology. We're going to talk about Mars and Leo, how to work with it. But the day this podcast comes out, November 4th, we know this is election week in the US, and I record these podcasts a week or so ahead of time to give my team time to do everything they need to do, and they do it so well. So I don't know what's happening right now as you're listening to this. If you're listening to this on the 5th or the 8th, anything could be happening, right? I'm guessing it's just a lot of chaos. So this week, we're going to do things a little differently. Okay, let me know if you're with me. I'm going to talk about astrology, of course, but I'm going to give us just some practices, rituals, tips to really focus on your heart and to focus on keeping good, clean, and clear energy, right? Because that's like one of the things that we can control. Hopefully, we voted. And again, voting and everything that happens with elections, this is just the beginning, y'all. If you live here in the US, this is not the end. This is not the finish line. This is like, we're just getting started, right? Voting is a strategy, not a solution. This is just like the beginning of the work. So either way, whatever's happening, we got to get into the heart space. And what's a better time to do that than Mars and Leo? So I'm going to get into some of my favorite tried and true practices and tips and just things that are kind of coming through as the downloads for my baddies. Before we get into that, Virgo announcements, we have a few exciting things going on. If you want to get in on the Astrology of 2025 webinar workshop, sign up. We have tickets are open for that now. And woo-wee. That's why I'm like, whatever is happening, it's very mysterious. We know it's going to be a very murky time here as we finish these last few degrees of Pluto and Capricorn as we move through a very retrograde end of the year. And then 2025 is just going to be filled with some of the biggest change that we've seen definitely in this decade in our lives. We have every outer planet is doing something different than it's doing right now, right? By the time we get to like spring 2025, we're going to be living in sort of a whole new timeline in terms of the outer planets. And we got to get into it. We got to talk about what all that stuff means, what happened in past history cycles, how we can apply that to now, and of course, our energetic self-care, our individual messages for our sign. And as always, just gathering in community, hopefully being able to, hold space, laugh, weave, pray, meditate, all the things together. So check that out. And the other thing is that we are still running our Notes from Your Higher Self pre-sale. So if you want to get one of those decks, they are limited edition. Get in on it now. Order the pre-sale. Those will be shipped on or before December 15th. And then we just do limited runs. And then the next run won't be until, I don't know, ? If you're curious, if you've been eyeing it up, do it. I think there's an option on the website to do one of those like pay in 4 installments if you're a baddie on a budget. And again, it's a great deck to add to either if you have 100 decks like me. I always pull it out for readings and for special rituals and ceremonies and daily pulls, or if you're new to the Oracle deck life. So those are the Virgo announcements. Let's get into If Astrology Isn't Real. Okay, so on this week's If Astrology Isn't Real, man, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's start off with, we talked about last week that we were going to see some crazy stuff with the Mars-Pluto oppositions. We have Mars in Cancer. which can be everything from fighting, for the feminine, for reproductive rights, for children, but also something I've talked about in this podcast, but just want to remind ourselves is Cancer can also be like the shadow energy, tribalism, my family above yours. This can manifest in a larger sense with racist, kind of nationalism, xenophobic tendencies. And so with Pluto opposite that, we saw this week the crazy, weird, like fascist rally of Trump at MSG. And leading up to it, people were like comparing it to this like Nazi rally fascist convention that was held at MSG on February 20th, 1939. So after seeing how ridiculous this thing was, and I'm not just talking about the racist, quote unquote, comic, but the things that were said, it just so ugly. So ugly. I had to pull the astrology. What else would we to do in these times? And of course, we know that Mars is opposite Pluto, and Pluto is the 29th degree, that very last little degree of Capricorn. And so lo and behold, on the day of this convention, Pluto was in the 29th degree of what sign? Cancer, the opposite sign of Capricorn. So what does this mean for us? Well, this was a moment of that peak nationalism, peak xenophobic energy being brought out into the public with that convention. And Pluto in Cancer is sort of the generation that started off this thing very much in our country of this sort of like, up to this point, it was very like, everyone come in, right? Give me your huddled, your tired masses, like melting pot. And Pluto in Cancer generation was a generation of like, well, now there's not enough to go around. And who are you? And I'm the real American and you're not. And a lot of like American nationalistic pride that manifests itself in shady ways. And that was like we were going into that with 29 degrees Cancer. The good news about, if there is good news to take from this horrible event, is that we're in the 29th degree of Capricorn. We're done. Like we're finishing this. So of course, all these things we see are, like I say, the death rattle. It's like the beast in the Harry Potter movie when you cut off its head. It grows one more just for one last like dramatic lash out. And I definitely found some relief in that, some context, as I'm always getting from looking at astrology. Again, this week, if we don't know what's happening, if you're listening to this on Monday or Tuesday and you haven't voted, please vote. The other thing that was interesting is I also called out last week something with like Elon Musk is, hopefully probably going to have some sort of come to reckoning moment for so many things, but definitely for what he was pulling in Pennsylvania with that whole just election interference. But his super PAC and trying to bribe people into registering to vote Republican. And there's this whole thing. It just felt so like bread and circus. And I was thinking this was going to catch up to him. And truly, it already happened. The Philadelphia DA already, I think, filed a lawsuit as of this past week, suing him for this super PAC. He didn't show up to the Pennsylvania court. And yeah, it's like 1 million a day voter sweepstake. It's so like sick and twisted. And it really is like a mockery of really non-billionaires. Let's pay attention to this. I think this is going to be a 3-part story. We're in the last degrees of Mars Cancer. Probably won't hear about it much more until then Mars goes retrograde in Cancer, right? January 6th till the end of February. And there'll probably be some kind of resolution on when Mars goes direct in Cancer after that time until about, I think Mars goes back into Leo like April 18th. So this is going to be a 3-part story. Let's track it. Let's watch it. And then again, in the meantime, this week, it's just on a lot of unknown energy. And after we had our new moon call last week, I was just like, oh God, like really was wanting to be in that meditative, prayerful, grounded state. And I just kind of kept feeling with this election right now, I'm like, we just must keep dreaming and believing and calling in the energy we want to call in right now, right? The healing, maybe the restoration of love and connectivity and unity. And the rest of this month, there's still like a lot of crazy astrology in November, a lot of twists and turns. So it's why, again, like we're focusing this episode on heart self-care, energetic self-care. But I don't know how else to say it. Like, I hope I'm not like leading him astray, or I might end up biting my words because I'm but merely a human, a muggle at the end of the day. But I just feel like we're not going back to the old way. We're not going back to the way we came. But it's going to take a lot of new architecting, visioning from us, dream weaving, being hopeful, being collaborative, right? Being resourceful So I'm just going to ask you all to hold that into your heart. And then hopefully next week when I tune in, I don't really know about next week's podcast if we're going to have more answers. Probably not, but we will see. And we're all in this together. Okay, and now bringing it back to the moon, speaking of self-care and focusing on what we can control and taking care of the heart, the mind, the soul, the body. Let's talk about what's going on with the moon, mama moon, our mama, our best friend, our boss on these days we have coming up this week. So 11/4, Monday, Moon Day, when this podcast comes out, we have a Sag moon. We have a Sag moon and it goes until November 5th, Tuesday, 10:17 a.m. So we're feeling optimistic. We're feeling hopeful. This is a great time to focus on feeling good, laughter, doing things that expand your mind, body, spirit, right? Like doing a great yoga flow, going for a walk, checking out something new, finding inspiration, making a mood board. These are all things that are we're usually feeling good, a good fire those days. And, I don't know about where you are in the world, but we've had some beautiful fall weather lately. And it's definitely, I think on the Sag moon days, if we're so blessed to have that, it's very life-giving. It's helpful for us to do something that waters the seeds of hope and optimism within us. And just like I said last podcast, Sag moon days, the things we want to look out for, blurting things out, not speaking before we're totally intentional with our words. And the other Sag moon thing is Sag moon energy can get a little spiritually bypassy, a little bit just okay, love and light, and we're figuring it all out. So really honoring your feelings, other people's feelings, not bypassing over them to avoid discomfort during those days, I would say. And then we have Cat moon. So Tuesday, election day, we have Capricorn moon that goes through the 6th, the 7th. And so we know with Pluto and Capricorn energy, it's in the last degrees of this. So this is our last moon in Capricorn moment with Pluto and Capricorn for the election. What does it all mean? So there is something, within us. I'm just going to focus on the micro. This is about you right now, not the macro. But on Capricorn moon days, we might be feeling more focused on our goals, our ambitions, our careers. We're feeling ambitious, practical. We might feel ourselves emotionally wanting to kind of, putting plans into place for the near future or kind of reassessing structures that we have in our lives. And we can usually tap into either some sort of laser-like laser-like focus or action that can help us just move the needle forward. I also hope that Pluto and Capricorn Cat Moon is coming to do some last-minute, last-stitch cleansing of the patriarchy. And then 11/7 at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, the moon moves into Aquarius and stays there through the 8th and to the 9th until about 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So Aquarius moon days, we are feeling a visionary energy. Maybe we want to do something different, mix it up, do something innovative, experimental. Maybe we've been feeling kind of stuck emotionally in something. Aquarius moon days are great to get unstuck, unsticky. And, you might feel wanting to plug into community, people around you who are going through similar experiences, or noticing, maybe there's some people around you who needs some help or something you offer. This Aquarius moon day is a great day to quote one of the quotes. If anyone's been to an event with me, I say this a lot for Aquarius energy, feeling nervous, be of service. Sometimes when we are feeling nervous or anxious, it helps to look outside of ourselves to help someone else. And it also, I think, reminds us in doing that there are helpers everywhere. We are one of the helpers, right? So we're looking out for that, and we're just being aware of, Scorpio, the Aquarius moon. We can get really fixed on something. We're going to be really careful and clear with our mindset and where we're taking it these days, because with Scorpio energy, it's kind of like a heat-seeking missile. Wherever Scorpio energy is focused, where the energy goes, or attention goes, energy flows, is a truth times a million for Scorpio. So I want you to just make sure that we're, again, trying to keep things clean and clear and under control in terms of what are we focusing our mind on? How are we functioning in that way? And with the Aquarius energy, getting things out of our head, getting into our body is going to really help that along. And then so wrapping up the week, then we have on November 9th, happy birthday to my cousin Kirsten. She does so many things, but a lot of you know her from her It's Giving Mystical podcast. Pisces moon. So the Pisces moon goes to the 9th and the 10th. And I just think this is a beautiful way, very watery way to end the weekend. Maybe we're all feeling a little softer, dreamier, a little bit more romantic. You might want to spend more time in quiet, sleeping, alone with your thoughts. You can be feeling really sensitive, of course, and your spiritual self might be pulling at you. You might feel drawn to, again, do something alone, journal, being drawn to music, water, and you might be getting a lot of pings, right? With the Scorpio energy and the Pisces energy, you might be getting a lot of downloads, ahas, or just signs that you're on the right path, or whatever kind of sign you've been asking for. But just a great time to have good boundaries. That's kind of a good kickoff to just the whole spiel of what we're going to talk about here today. But just checking in with your boundaries, checking in with if we're getting leaky energy, or we're kind of putting too much energy into other people or what they think or what they do. We're just too open. Let's just zip it up, close it up a little bit, right? Pull ourselves back into ourselves. So that's a good segue into planetary planning. Like I said, this week, a little different. I want to give you some Cosmic RX's tips, tools to really focus on the heart space. And one of those reasons why we're going to focus on that, one is on the macro level here in the US, it's the election. I haven't talked to anyone who's not a little bit anxious about it. And we're in the place of we're showing up, we're doing the action. But right now, while we wait, there's a certain level of surrender, a certain level of just taking care of ourselves and our communities. And it's kind of the only thing we can do right now. The other thing is, I mentioned last week, Mars moves into Leo November 3rd. It stays there through January 6th, which is very interesting. So many reasons. January 6th is the day that the Electoral College ultimately makes the final decision, right, for the president here. So it's okay, we might not even have a set answer until then. So let's focus November 3rd to January 6th on this, right? On our heart, on our truth, on being the heart-centered leader that we're looking for, pursuing our passions, taking good care of ourselves, cultivating warmth, cultivating authenticity. This is also our last run of North Node in Aries time. The North Node will switch January 11th. So there's this double fire energy. And then, of course, Mars will go retrograde December 6th. So for all of us, I feel this time, Mars is put that action in, going inward into the heart, and then seeing what you want to bring outward in terms of more truth, more art, more beauty, more expression, just more of your authentic light. And then when Mars pulls in to go retrograde, we'll probably feel even more of the inner reflections on that. But Mars in Leo, Mars retrograde in Leo can also bring up anger and frustration and feeling in some ways we could feel we're not being seen, or that we're just feeling stubborn in something. So finding healthy outlets for that anger and rage is going to be important. Mars in Leo too, it's really can you be a warrior on behalf of your heart, a love warrior? What does that look like, right? So yeah, this might be a great time, so many things, pursuing, like I said, your art, creative offerings, being seen, going for things in the name of love, maybe switching up your wardrobe, hair, all these fun things. But for today and for this week, I do want to focus on how we're tending to the heart. So in terms of energy protection, in terms of how I want us to kick all this off, is first I want you to draw a picture. And I want you to have almost a bullseye, a circle with another circle around it. Leave plenty of room to write things in. So the first thing I want you to do, my dears, I want you to check in with your heart. And I want you to tune in to this sense of control, or this false sense of control that we're feeling, or we're needing, or we're grasping for. And under this Mars in Leo, I want you to ask yourself, what is actually within my control? And I want you to write it within that smaller circle. And some of you in that inner circle, some of you might have done things like this already in therapy or in other emotional regulation exercises. And then in the outside circle, I want you to do a brain dump of all the things you can't control. And there's something very grounding about, first of all, always putting pen to paper, but also just being able to see what can I actually control? What's actually worth my efforts? And what are things that I actually can't control, right? So things we can control, our self-care, we can control our words, our behaviors, we can control if we're eating well, if we're moving our bodies, we can control is our house feeling tidy and decluttered. We can control checking in on people we love and our community, things we can't control, other people's behaviors, other people's reactions. Some of the things happening on the macro level of the political stage we can't control, and so on. We can't control the future. Like there's things there, right? So starting off with a brain dump can feel really good, and it's just a good check-in with your heart. And I want your heart to have permission to really use all that strength and passion and potency, power of your heart on what you can control and what's important to you, right? And then while we're doing journaling, while we are having some fun here, I want you to think about these questions that I'm going to give you. Get your pen and paper out. And these can be questions that can be journaling prompts, but they can also be card pulls if you're someone who uses like tarot or oracle. And I want you to think about like a wheel of these questions. And this is like, what makes you up again and what you can control? Who are you outside of stress and trauma? And really, these questions are about finding alignment and joy and living in your light. Okay. So the first thing on the list, I do want you to ask, what are your core values? If you haven't done your core values exercise, please, there's a lot of resources out there, but essentially, finding a core values list and narrowing it down to 3 core values is a practice that I have all of my mentees and students and clients do. And it's like building the skeleton or the foundation that you're going to be in alignment to. Like this is what's like where the alignment begins. And then you can think about what are the behaviors, what are the actions that support those values. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want you to ask is, in terms of your passion, what do you really care about? What lights you up? What ignites that fire in you? Whether that's like big macro causes, things within you, what kind of gets your inner drive, your inner gas tank going and revving? And then similar but different, I just said what lights you up, but maybe I should specify here. The next question is joy. So what lights you up but different way? If passion is like a fire in your belly, I want you to think of joy as like what lights you up, what makes you literally feel light? What makes you feel lighter in life? What are the things that make you feel that twinkling, sparkly, fairy energy? And joy is so different than happiness. Joy is like a state of being. It's contentment, it's satisfaction with life, but it's also enthusiasm, exuberance, excitement, exhilaration. Happiness feels a bit more fleeting to me. And I don't know why happiness in my mind always feels like it's an outward expression. Maybe it's hinged upon other things, where joy is like an inner feeling. You're cultivating joy, keeps us buoyant through hardship and trials, and it connects us to meaning and purpose and joy. I read one time that happiness involves the ego and a victory for the self and the ego, and that joy kind of transcends the self and the ego. It's different, right? So what brings that inner feeling of lightness, of joy, of delight, even outside of what's happening around you in the circumstances? And I think about joy as it's what makes you very buoyant. And we need to find things that make us feel buoyant. Now, off of that question, the next question is, what brings you meaning in life? What makes your life meaningful? What makes you feel fulfilled? This is just a question that, I know a lot of you here are living heart-centered lives, and you're thinking a lot about purpose and meaning and why are you here? It's like another way of saying what's your purpose, but I'm just going to reframe it as meaning right now, because the meaning can be a lot in the doing of the everyday, the embodying of the purpose. This just helps us stay the course. Again, focus on what's really important, what refills our heart, what are the things that really matter to us, right? So, what gives you meaning? What gives you purpose? Reflect on this a little bit. And again, pulling cards, going deeper. Some of these questions might be easy, stream of consciousness, and other ones might be a little bit of a block. And then 2 more questions. The second to last one is play. What makes your inner child light up? What makes your inner teen light up? What are the things you do that feel like play, that feel easeful, that fill you with awe and wonder? What are the things that you could do that you could get lost in for hours doing that make you feel excited and giddy and like, oh my God, yeah, and maybe doing the things like getting ready for them even gets you excited, getting the new art supplies, getting the new workout gear, setting up the space to host a really fun little themed dinner party for your friends. What taps into that feeling of play for you, where it's like, this is not hard at all. This is fun. I don't have to do this. I get to do this. Okay, so this is very important with the Mars and Leo of it all. And also just as a way of protecting our energy and cultivating this good heart energy in these times more than ever. And then the last thing I want you to think about is just tracking in your phone, something I have a lot of my clients do. And again, if you've taken my Cosmic Bombshell or Cosmic Boss, I talk a lot about, not a lot, but I reference glimmers. We all know what a trigger is. It sets us into a place of feeling emotionally triggered. We use this word very commonly now. But another way of looking at life can be through actively seeking and curating and cultivating glimmers. And these are moments that spark the opposite of emotions of triggers. They trigger things of joy and peace. They're things that positively impact our mental health and well-being. And I use things a little different. I don't know where I originally learned this from. I apologize. I didn't invent this by any means, but I think about a glimmer and a shimmer. Okay, stay with me here. So a shimmer, I think about is something you feel and you literally feel good in your body, like a lived experience, a memory, a moment, cuddling with your puppy in the sunshine, having a moment where you're, outside at a vineyard with all of your friends looking around like life is so good, boarding a plane to see someone you love. I mean, maybe even quitting that unhealthy job and walking out that first day and being like, oh my God, I'm so free. These are felt experiences, and shimmers are something that I ask people to sit with and actively cultivate. Sometimes we have so many complicated emotions and feelings around pleasure that we can resist that. We can be scared of it, but sitting in our shimmers, invoking them, remembering them, or moments when we're in them, almost practice. I am not going to leave this feeling. I am going to sit here. I'm going to sit in this shimmer and I'm going to allow it to increase my capacity and my container to hold this is so important. So thinking about that with the shimmer. And then glimmer, I actually use this, and I don't know if this is correct. This is how I use this. Yes, it's joy, it's inspiration, it's peace, it's exciting. We're cueing our nervous system to feel safe or calm through a glimmer, but a little different than a shimmer. A glimmer might be something that could be a trigger if you weren't doing this epic mindset, energy hygiene, heart-centered work. Meaning, you see a friend of yours, you're out and their partner meets them with a cup of coffee and a pastry from their favorite bakery. And the old you could clench in jealousy and envy and bitterness, resentment, whatever it is, feeling lonely. But the part of you is oh, that's a glimmer. Thank you for showing me something I really want. Thank you for letting that move through me and getting excited. Oh, I can't wait to have that one day. Thank you for showing me that. It's something we want. And so we can also hold glimmers for ourselves and our personal lives in terms of how we live, how our families are, our relationships are, our bank account is, our work is, right? I remember when I started off this work, just seeing people who were doing so many things on social media, doing events or had book deals. And it used to give me that clenching feeling, there's not enough to go around, or they already had this, or they already made a book and talked about this. And once I realized that again, abundance mindset, there's so much to go around, there's infinite supply, and thank you for just showing me something that I desire. And once I can tap into that, I can know that that which I desire desires me back. It opens it up, and I feel it just shifts everything from this closed off, contracted, lower frequency to feeling open and excited. And it really has shifted so many things for me And so we can do this in our personal life, and we can also do it. I believe we can glimmer it up for the macro, for the collective. Like maybe we see other cultures living a certain way, or we see potentiality, or we see small communities doing things that we would love to see on a larger level. And like, we hold that and sit with it. So part of this Mars in Leo, I invite you to track your glimmers and your shimmers, right? So those are some of the journaling prompts that I wanted to share. Hopefully you can go back and replay this if it was too much information. And then, in terms of Mars and Leo, other things that I just want you to think about, some other rituals and physical self-care. Leo rules the heart and Leo rules the spine. So again, things we can control, how we're feeling in our physical body, how we're listening to our body. And in our body is where all of our power, all of our wisdom is, all of our ability to digest big emotions, exciting and terrifying emotions. We digest them through the body. So I would love to see you, Mars and Leo. Mars is a very physical planet, obviously. Leo, can we get into the body? Can we do some things that stretch the spine? Can we bring mobility to our spine? Can we do yoga? Can we do dance? Can we undulate? Also, the heart energy. Can we do heart opening yoga? Can we do some cardio? Can we do things that are essentially like getting the blood pumping a little bit, right? Connecting to our heart, to our life force, to our strength. I would love to see that for all of us, myself included. I'm going to try and get in to see my wonderful, delicious Aquarius chiropractor, Dr. Lila Wolf. I want to take good care of my spine because I want to be able to stand tall in my truth, right? And I want to feel connected to my heart. So there's that in the very physical sense. And then some more energetic rituals that connect us to the Mars and Leo vibes. Obviously working with crystals, rose quartz, pyrite. There's so many amazing crystals that connect us, rhodochrosite to the heart. I love working with rose oil and doing like a massage on my chest and my heart center. When I'm feeling like that like tightness and constriction in the heart space, it feels more energetic. There's great acupuncture that can open up like different gateways of your heart. So all of that, we're taking care of the physical, the energetic, the quantum heart space. And then I'm just putting it out there. If you need to remove any kind of like toxic energy, heavy energy from your living spaces, this might also be a time to do that because, just with the heart and the Mars and Leo, we want to keep our energy around us clean. We've also been going back and forth from Mars and Cancer in this, Mars retrograde cycle. We're going to be going back into Cancer in January. We've been in Mars and Cancer since September. There might also be like a cleansing of your house, home, apartment, room that might want to happen. So we can do anything from obviously like using sacred smoke that is appropriate for you, lavender, cinnamon. I like to open all my windows and really do a cleansing with like sound and vibration and some incense and make sure everything's going out the windows. I then like dust and sweep, especially the corners. Corners collect a lot of energy. I declutter my space. I will wipe things down with either like a lavender spiritual wash with lavender water or like frankincense and water on my surfaces, or you could use Florida water. And then you put out little like bowls of salt, make sure to keep it away from like animals and babies. Salts under, again, especially like areas where energy collects, under couches, under beds. And like let that absorb it. You could hold it there for a few days, and then you could dump it outside onto the earth or flush it down the toilet or wash it away in some body of water if that all is like safe for you around you. Definitely, around your windowsills, spaces like that. And then if you want to go even deeper, I will put out like lemons and lime bowls. They say that they like absorb energy in your apartment or your home. And just noticing like when they get like mildewy or fuzzy, it's like they've absorbed the energy. And sometimes I swear to God, or have like rented an Airbnb, this has happened in like a day. Sometimes it'll take like a week. And then of course, just having your house like smell beautiful, smell clean, lighting candles, incense, putting something with cinnamon in the oven, like making your home feel really sacred is a great way of tending to your heart. So I think that's it. I think that's all the ground that I wanted to cover for today. And again, I know it's a little different, a little unconventional from our normal episode. Next week, we'll be back talking about Venus moving into Capricorn and, whatever else is going on right now in the collective and recapping that. But in the meantime, I'm really encouraging you baddies to stay really in the place of tender, loving care of your heart, of your energy, really, again, focusing on what we can control, releasing what we can't control, and using all of that good energy you're pouring into your heart to pour out to the people and the things and the projects and the causes that are really meaningful to you. Okay, so I'm wrapping you up in a big sparkly cloak of protection and divine direction. And of course, sending you those big ass blessings for big fat juicy checks and hot, fulfilling, toe curling sex. Until next week, mwah. Do you love getting your Cosmic RX for the week here and want more? Make sure to sign up for our premium subscription so you can get exclusive access to bonus podcast episodes, all of my astrology info for the month ahead, and live new and full moon calls to help you manifest your dream life with an intentional international community of other cosmic baddies. Sign up through our link in show notes.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to know more about Cosmic RX, head on over to thecosmicrx.com. And if you really love this show, I'd love it if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. I super love hearing from you and reading your reviews. All right, you cosmic baddie, tune in next week. And until then, remember, love yourself fully, work your magic, and take no shit.